I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. My name is Tristan Miller, the Saucy Sleuth.
I'm Melissa Meli, the Spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, Cop and a Half.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook and a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/adcpod and browse the unmatched selections of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/adcpod. You got any recs?
Love in the Time of Cholera.
I
just loaned it to my friend who has been staying with us since before the whole debacle. She's like, that sounds like a relevant book to read now.
Yeah. A little bit.
We're coming at you again from our own homes. So Tristan's audio should sound pretty good, and ours might suck. Well, mine might.
I mean, we'll see.
Mine might too. There's some construction things happening in my backyard. So who knows what fun things we'll hear.
Yeah. My windows are not soundproof.
My windows are open. I don't know what... I mean, I think it's forgivable at this point, you know. So today we're talking about Season 3, Episode 6, Tragedy at Marsdon Manor, of Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot series. This is another one that's based off of a Poirot Investigates.
That's right.
Which is very fun. And so it starts off by them going to a B&B, right? That's the first thing? Or do we get the whole, like, setup with the... No. We get the setup with the... there's a couple at a big manor, and they're going on a walk, and this woman sees a bunch of crows... Well, a rook, technically, flies into the tree, and she screams. And just before that, her presumed husband, named Jack, which he has a big mustache and a coat, and I thought she said Jap at first, and we couldn't see her face, and I was like, oh, we're finally going to meet Inspector Jap's wife.
No.
He has a wife in Canada. It's, I think, one of those situations.
Or it's like Columbo's wife on Columbo. That you never meet, and then she gets her own show, and it's Kate Mulgrew.
It's Angela Lansbury, if you can believe. He was married to J.B. Fletcher the whole time. But yeah, then she gets freaked out by a rook in a tree, and says she sees a face in the tree, like a ghost, and then, the man falls down because he has some sort of, like...
heart condition.
Yeah,
he has an ulcer.
An ulcer.
I hardly know her. Kneel before the ulcer of stomach troubles. Okay, so here's the thing. That happens, and then they go to the B&B, right?
Yes, but the way this
I'm doing
is
a terrible
shot,
job.
No. But the way this is shot is ridiculous. In the best way. It's like very over-the-top horror movie kind of thing with like
it feels
shaky...
like Sam Raimi sort of, you know, like Evil Dead similar vibes, or once you get into Bob stuff in Twin Peaks.
Very over the top. I love it. It's delightful. Big fan.
Very silly. It's very silly.
And by the way, I didn't remember any... I thought I remembered this one, and I didn't remember it. And then my boyfriend sat there and predicted every single thing that was going to happen in it, and I was like, no, it's not that. And he's like, and then he's dead on. Anyway. Yeah. That's fun. Rich always undermining me with his predictions.
Dead on? I hope there's not a murder in this episode.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
No, I do hope there is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Poirot and Hastings, they go to a B&B, and they answered a call. Poirot received a letter to help solve a mystery, and it turns out that the owner of the B&B is also a mystery writer. And he has a manuscript that he wants Poirot to read so he could, like, figure out who done it. Because he's written himself into a corner, and Poirot is incensed by this. Absolutely.
Oh, his face is perfect.
Oh, it's so good. He's like, I can't believe amazing. I've come, what is it, 6 hours just for this nonsense?
Yeah.
And so he's so incensed that he's like, no, I'm not going to. And then so they go and like they have a meet. They go into the courtyard and there's a wax museum. They go to the wax museum. In the wax museum, there's a statue of Poirot. Hastings is lagging behind, and Poirot sees it. He's very proud of himself. And then the museum closes, and so Hastings doesn't get to see that it's there. And Poirot is very upset by this, and he's like, I just want people to know that I'm famous.
Yeah,
and I'm like, same.
Really cute. It's very, very fun. Good old Poirot.
This stuff. Is the equivalent of like me trying to show my girlfriend a tweet that did well. I'm like, look, please.
That's so interesting though, because I didn't take that moment to be that at all.
Oh, really?
I thought that he was, like, upset that they had gotten his likeness so wrong. And he was trying to get his attention to be like, do you believe this shit?
Oh, no. I got what Tristan got out of it, too. But that's...
Yeah, it's just interesting.
I mean...
Maybe it's a bit of both.
Maybe it is a bit of both. Maybe he wanted to... Like, he wanted him to see it, but he also wanted to complain about it. You know.
I mean, that sounds like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That absolutely tracks. And then don't they go back to the B&B?
Yeah, but the guard delivers like one of my favorite lines in the episode before we leave the wax museum. Because he also sees Poirot. He's like trying to get them out because the museum's closing. And he turns to the other gentleman lagging behind and just goes, in reference to the Poirot wax figure, oh man, it's like, oh, I'm not going to get this perfect. But it's just like, they never look as real in the flesh as they do in wax.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. And it was quite good.
It's like,
I got a good chuckle.
Dude, you've been here too long.
Yeah.
You gotta get out more. Oh. Remember what it was
working... like? I can't imagine working at like Madame Tussauds. Like, that sounds terrible and spooky.
Yeah. It's very, you get very comfortable with the, can you imagine, like, having to turn the lights off at night?
Ooh.
Oh, no. No,
No, thank you. And then they go back to the B&B, and a new person has arrived. And he is going to this place called Marsdon Manor, the titular Marsdon Manor, which has been, as the owner of the B&B explains to Poirot and Hastings, because the gentleman leaves right as they're coming in, that is haunted, apparently. Reportedly, it is haunted.
Spooky ghosts!
And Poirot's like, all right, fine. And he's like, well, we have no option but to stay at this B&B because we're stuck in town. And so he does take the manuscript with him in the end. And they go to Betty Bye. And then we go to the manor, right?
Yes, because Poirot and Hastings speak to the gentleman because he has wrapped in an African newspaper, a gift of some sort that we get in the next scene.
Yes. So he goes to Marston Manor and he gives it to the lady of the manor, the one that has been seeing ghosts. And she unwraps the paper. It's from his travels in Kenya. And she unwraps it.
Can you believe it? Oldie but a goodie.
Yep.
An oldie but a finey.
So,
sorry, could you imagine a police officer like pulling someone's like, well, I'm gonna have to charge you a finey winey for this one. Just terrible.
Oh, that's what it's like in Tristan's head.
Unfortunately.
So she unwraps it, and it's a sculpture, and it's supposed to ward off demons or bad spirits. And
do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in life after ghosts?
I kind of do. I half believe it and half don't. And yeah, sometimes I think yes, sometimes I think no.
Tyler?
I just hope not. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Like, I really hope that
Once
people
you're
don't see all the things that, people do in their daily lives.
My argument about it is like two things. One, I'll believe it when it's applicable to my life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, once I see a ghost, I'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like, my argument would be, like, everyone has unfinished business when they pass. So, like, it should just be full of ghosts. And I do this bit in my stand-up as well, of, like, ghosts already exist. They're the soul that's haunting our bodies. So, there you go.
Yes.
Consciousness. I wish you could just claim to see a ghost without people immediately going, oh, well, you're mentally ill. Let's get you some help.
Yeah.
Because it would be nice. It'd be nice to just, like, make something up. And have people... I would do it for the attention.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
All right.
We don't have time to unpack that here, but all right. That tracks, Tristan.
You ever say you see a ghost just for the attention of it all?
No, I sometimes don't
The
say
Tristan
I see
Miller
a ghost.
story.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a very long title.
It was actually nice. I was at a friend's housewarming party, and I had, like, a little weird, like, was that a ghost kind of feeling? And
Yeah.
I said it to two of my friends who I had never discussed this with before. I can't say any of this in front of my boyfriend because he vehemently does not believe in ghosts. So I always...
He'll get upset.
Yeah. But I said this to them, and they were like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I didn't know you believed, too. I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And they're like, no, yes, absolutely. We feel ghosts all the time. I'm like, oh, well, there we go. I'm not the only one, for sure.
I believe in ghosts enough to leave.
If you could, perfect. That would be perfect if you were a known ghost believer, and you just like any excuse to get out of a party. Just like, I'm good. I sense a ghost. I'm good. This place is cursed. My other argument would be like every apartment in New York would be haunted then, because it's bound to be. Like, but also the theater that I started at in my hometown was, a lot of people say it was haunted, and I might believe them.
Fun.
Yeah. So anyway, they get to this manor. He's given her the idol, or the thing that wards away bad spirits.
Yeah, talisman?
Talisman.
Yeah.
And then they go to dinner.
Yes.
All four of them. The husband, the wife, and the doctor, and this guy. And the doctor was there to check up on the husband.
Right. Back in the day when having a doctor was like always house calls, and then you sat down and had dinner, because why not?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's at this dinner, I believe, where it what we see begins with her telling the story about the teenage girl that killed herself, that the town believes is now like haunting this property because she was like jilted by someone or something. So she climbed up into a tree and jumped out of it and died.
Yeah.
Which is like the dumbest way to go.
Skill.
Yeah. But like a tree, like you have like a roof and a window. Like, why are you bringing down trees?
She just loved nature.
Okay. So the doctor is really skeptical of the whole thing, and he's like, well, you know how these, rumors about town, or how these superstitions come to be. And Homegirl is just like, I know what I saw, Doctor. And everyone's like, all right, relax. And is it then? No. I'm mistaken.
Doesn't it just cut to the next day then?
I think so.
Okay, then I was right. Then.
Yeah,
okay,
with
I thought I was
Hercule,
second guessing myself.
With Poirot and Hastings having a nice brunch, and he has the manuscript, and he says to the innkeeper, "I cannot decipher who did it." And he's like, "Me neither." And then Poirot is like, "What?" And he's like, "I haven't figured out how the killer works. Who did it?" Which is a very interesting way of going about a mystery.
Yeah.
I would imagine like you reverse engineer, like you figure out who did it and then you write a story around it, but
that is how I would do it if I were to write a murder mystery. But
the subplot is very fun.
Yes.
I start with the house and work backwards.
Yeah. And then they say that there's been a murder, right? That's the information we get next, right?
No, because we do find. I think that conversation happens, and then we go back to the manor where Homegirl is painting.
Right.
And then she's painting, and Mrs. Browning, right?
The nurse or whatever her name is. She's like the housekeeper.
We'll just
lady
say
of the house. Oh, that's not nice.
I think we won't say that.
Who I must say, though, like the woman playing this part is like a very striking woman.
Yes.
She goes around hitting people.
No, I mean, like, she was just like a very, like, beautiful woman.
Yes, I understood what you meant.
Okay, all right. Well, for the listeners at home, so she's asking where
listening to this. Number one, good for you. Number two, why?
Poirot is for all ages.
That's right.
In some way, we've discussed this at length. Like, in some ways, it is. It's wholesome enough where you don't really see the murders, and it's like PG enough that you could watch it as a child. I know I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But Mrs. Browning is like, "Oh, have you seen Mr. Maltravers? There's business, I guess."
This is what she says verbatim.
Yep.
So, Mrs. Maltravers, what is this woman's name? Blondie.
I don't remember her first name.
Let's just call her Georgette.
Like Mary or like Helen or something.
Or like Victoria or
some queen's name.
No, Victoria is from another thing we watched very recently.
Okay, well, she has a very English name.
Yeah. But Mrs. Maltravers, the one who's painting.
Yes.
It's like, no, haven't seen him. And then like this, another hired hand, enters the premises and it's like, "Mrs. Maltravers, you've got to come quick. It's Mr. Maltravers." Inappropriate.
The more, like, every time I do something like that, I'm like, "God, you're just creating more work for yourself on the back end."
And then they discover the body.
Bum, bum, bum. Who
it's
is
Mr. Maltravers.
Yes, it's Jack.
Yes. And he has blood coming out of his mouth.
Which there was an interesting moment with the doctor where he calls him Jonathan, and I always forget Jack is short for Jonathan.
Yeah.
It's like a nickname. And then
John.
people and people just started calling people Jack after a while.
Yeah, it's strange.
Which is
Yeah.
I assume it has something to do with the French.
Then we are back in the restaurant with Poirot, Hastings, and the innkeeper. Where, like, the news gets broken.
Yeah. And what's his name is nowhere to be found. The gentleman that checked in.
Oh, yes, the guy with the statue.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kenya.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Oh, right, yes. Mm-hmm.
I never heard Kenya pronounced outside of, like, American English.
Yeah.
So it was very, very unsettling at first. We're back at the manor.
So back at the manor, and he's dead. He has blood coming out of his mouth. Jack. And they're wondering, was it his stomach ulcer and he just started hemorrhaging internally? Maybe. Mm-hmm. No, he was murdered. So, yes, they're trying to figure it out, and then they figure it out. Stuff happens in between. And that stuff is as follows.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Discuss. So we Poirot is going over the scene of where the body was found. Mm-hmm. The body was found under the tree.
Right, the scary tree, the one that the ghost lady jumped from when she committed suicide, allegedly.
I do like this idea of a haunted tree, because there's a lot of haunted houses.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you had Grandmother Willow in Pocahontas.
Yeah.
The Whomping Willow in Harry Potter.
And also Old Man Willow in The Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trees are spooky sometimes.
They are, but you don't go into them as much as you go into houses. I think that's why haunted houses are such a big thing, because, like, then you go in there and you're surrounded, but you don't go into trees as much.
Not as much. You ever got scared by a tree?
No.
What was the question?
You ever gotten scared by a tree? Has a tree ever frightened you?
Not the tree, but like wind rustling through, like that sensation is a bit odd. Like when you're by yourself alone in the dark in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Spooky sound, yeah.
As you do.
Yeah. As I used to do.
I have so often laid awake at night. The concept of a tree scares me. The idea
of a tree? Like,
this is a mini-sode that we're about to get into. Because I have so many questions.
It's crawling out of the ground. It's terribly frightening. Where does it come from? No one can explain it.
There's several ways to explain it.
I've never heard them.
So, a seed is planted in a...
It's science, in fact.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
You're perfect for this administration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you been seeing these homeschool fails? People are trying to homeschool their kids while
I have.
Oh, they're fun.
Whereas, like, we actually, Christine and I even had a discussion of, like, she was like, being homeschooled really does have an advantage to this, because, like, you saw the same people every day.
Yeah.
In your own home. And I was like, yeah, I'm used to this.
Yeah.
So the body's under the tree.
Yes. And Poirot has deduced that the body has been moved given the signs of distress on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely looks like someone has been dragged.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We also see a blackbird's nest that has been disturbed. And we find broken eggs on the ground, which seemed odd. Unbeknownst to us at the time why, but it does ring odd for Poirot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe he makes his way over to Mrs. Maltravers.
They were talking about, because it says not dead, merely sleeping.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Spooky.
I love that.
Yeah, and Poirot says, yes. Go ahead.
I wanted my headstone just not dead. Just not dead. Sorry. And Poirot says what, Melissa?
Poirot says, yes, it is hard to know what really happens to us, and I think Tyler might actually have this better than I do. Exactly what their exchange was about, but yeah,
I thought I did, and now I can't. I went right out.
They have like a ghost chat. They talk about ghosts, I think.
And
yes, and she reveals the time where she was going to bed. She had just taken a sleeping pill. Jack was in the shower,
taking that,
and she saw blood, kind of
on the mirror, right?
Yeah,
on her
coming
vanity,
down the mirror, and it freaked her out.
Yeah,
because Poirot alludes to him also agreeing with her that like something had frightened him.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then he alludes to it being like something external, and she's like, no, it's also happened within these walls.
And then she runs away due to anxiety, which deeply relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I stan.
So at some point, they go to like this there's a meeting and everyone's wearing gas masks.
Yeah, which was a little too real.
Yeah, that was frightening. Right now.
Yeah, it's because it's set right before World War II, right? And they're afraid of the bombing. Yeah. And so they're all teaching everybody how to use a gas mask properly. They go and visit the doctor, though.
Yeah. And there was like something like chloroform had been missing from his cabinet.
That is precisely it.
Yes.
Yeah. And we see Mr. Kenya looking into the window during their conversation. And when Poirot and Hastings arrive, and only bring this up just because it's cute, not because it has to do anything with the actual murder or plot. But they arrive and they're speaking to the receptionist. And the receptionist goes to the doctor to let them know that someone's arrived. And she goes, doctor, there's a man suffering from Hercule Poirot? And it sounds very serious.
Oh, yes. It was so great. And the guy looks at her quizzically. The guy looks at her quizzically for a moment and it just... And then goes, okay, yeah, let him in. Like, what are you talking about? Whew, okay. It's great. Then, yes, they're at this meeting house and Poirot rushes in, having realized, and, like, there's someone giving a presentation on a stage, and Poirot just barrels in and starts yelling.
Like, where is Mrs. Maltravers?
Which is the most audacious thing I can think of to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, I mean, can you imagine? I just had the idea of, like, what if he had done that and nothing had been wrong? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. She's not even there.
Yeah. So, but she is there, and she has a little fainting spell, and
plop.
Yeah, and so they go over to her and task someone with getting some smelling salts for her. They revive her. She's very disturbed and scared.
Mm-hmm. Which, I'm sorry, don't they make couches for this exact situation?
Fainting couches?
Fainting couch?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't have any in this meeting hall.
Gotta have
Gross
one.
oversight, yeah. But she talks about how she is nervous about the housekeeper because apparently she and, like, the housekeeper and her now deceased husband had a thing a while back, but she's always gotten the impression that the housekeeper still was in love with him. So she was concerned for her safety. But they get her all revived, and she gets back to the house, and at some point, Poirot has a salad.
Yes, and gives the innkeeper a person to pin the murder on in his book.
Yes.
Yes.
He's very grateful.
Yes. And then he has a revelation, right?
Well, it's because Hastings, what had happened was Hastings had taken Mrs. Maltravers back to the house, and that is when she revealed that she was nervous about the housekeeper. Please look into this, and given him a painting as a thank you. The painting that she had been painting the day before, not the day before, but the day of the murder. And so Hastings brings that back, and while Poirot is having his salad, he looks over at the painting and says, "Hey, this is the one that was painted that day?" And he's like, "Yeah, what's the problem?" And Poirot goes, "Aha! I know what happened."
And he also,
like he does.
Hastings cracks an egg, and he's like, "The eggs," as well.
Yeah, right.
So it's two bits of information right after another. So he goes, "Aha!" And I think this is where we should take an ad break.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Once again, you can go to audibletrial.com/adcpod, get a free book. Specifically, I don't know, this is kind of wonky. Any sort of secondary income would be great during these times. Yeah. A couple of us don't have our jobs, or soon won't, so that would be great. Just do us a solid. Go there, find a book. It's a free book. You can just, do whatever with it afterwards. Just get the book. Just get a book. Books. But you can,
It's a good time for books.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. You can listen to an audiobook while you're doing your in-house exercises or whatever it is that you're doing with your time. That's all I got about the books.
Well, hello, cool cats and jive turkeys. We know you love listening to our podcast. But did I kill Tristan?
Yeah, you broke him.
God bless.
You love our podcast. But you know what? We would love it if you would show it. Subscribe to our Patreon for either $1 or $3 a month at patreon.com/adcpod.
Tyler, what do they get?
At the $3 per month level, you'll receive early access to all the shows, plus bonus episodes and content. At the $1 level, you'll be able to receive bonus episodes, but not the early access. So patreon.com/adcpod.
Yes. We would like to thank the Scavengers Network for hosting us, for being our network, as it were. And if you'd like, go over and check out some of their other exciting podcasts. They have podcasts like Crossroads Minute, where veteran podcasters James and Aaron watch Britney Spears' movie Crossroads 1 minute at a time and
oh my god.
And examine it bit by bit. And
so some people question whether or not podcasts can be art.
Right? I mean, that is definitely art. And if you like talking about ghosts, then check out Insanely Haunted, where Max and Cassie ridicule ghost adventures and Zach Baggins. They tear down every false positive, every instance of ignorant cultural insensitivity for your benefit.
Very good.
So go to scavengersnetwork.com and check out those shows and more.
Yeah. And if you're... they're also been doing a lot of live streaming during this quarantine time. I'm going to be doing a couple of them. Not as this episode is aired. I would have already done them. But I'm sure I'm going to be doing more of them. So check that out.
So Poirot has his revelation, and he asks the innkeeper to do him a favor. And he says, of course, Mr. Poirot, anything you need. So Poirot goes back to the house and sets up one of his fantastic...
I love it. The drama.
A dramatic reveal scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And... how does he get her to agree to this? He gets everyone around the dinner table.
Oh, because she invited them.
Yeah, they invited him to dinner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that'll work.
And at one point, wine spills, and he's like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And then that's already done, because the tension is palpable. The tension is palpatine.
Right, like... The lights start going out. There's like lightning flashing or something like that. It's very dramatic.
And then the doors blow open.
Mm-hmm. Set up a whole thing. And Poirot is talking to her by the window. And she sees her husband coming towards her. Walking
very
towards
spooky.
her. And at one point... As Poirot is speaking with her, she opens her hands, and there's blood on her hands, literally. Mm-hmm. This is Mrs. Maltravers, by the way, if we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
And, and she says, oh no, there's blood on my hands, and he's coming for me because I did it, I killed him. And, lights up, and all of the pretense gets dropped, and there's, it reveals that the man that is her husband walking towards her, it's actually a mask of his face, which is
done from the wax museum.
Yeah. And takes the mask off. It's the innkeeper. And then Japp comes in and arrests her, and it's revealed that she did it because she didn't love her husband. She just wanted the money. Thought he was way more sickly than he actually was. So she
got impatient.
Yeah, got impatient, walked over to him while he was in the garden, taking a snooze, and shot him in the mouth.
With a rook rifle, which is kind of like a BB gun.
Yeah. And then she hid the gun in the bush where there had been a nest of blackbirds. That's why the eggs broke from the nest. Mm-hmm. And dragged the body over to the tree to make it look like he was scared by the ghost. So...
and she got the idea from the newspaper that Mr. Kenya brought, because there was an exact same kind of murder there, which Poirot observed when the man forgot his gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
He's
and
nosy.
He was in... Yeah, very nosy. All these good detectives are. Mm-hmm. And she was in love with the guy who brought her the newspaper and the idol, and they were in cahoots. Mm-hmm. So that's all tied up, so they go back to the wax museum.
Yes. Perhaps the best bit of comedy.
They get to... So Poirot walks over to his statue to show Japp and Hastings, and
it's says, remarkable, amazing.
Yeah. Hastings and Japp are making gushing noises and, everything. And they walk over to a wax figure of Charlie Chaplin, I think, and praise it and say how incredible it is, and just blow right past it. And Poirot walks out extremely disgruntled that they did not notice his wax figure. And, as they walk by, Japp, like, moves the Poirot wax figure's hat askew.
And Hastings ties the tie a little bit better. It's very sweet, very funny. They're all friends now, which I like. Because like the first couple seasons where like Japp is like not friends with them, it's a little insufferable.
Yeah, it's much nicer now that they Rich, who was watching this with me, was saying, I like that they're friends now. I like that Japp just calls Poirot and says, hey, you know, can you come over and I need your help. But yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one?
Yeah. I'll go. I really liked it. I liked the comedy in it. I always will remember the comedy bits, which is, I think, apropos. I also like that every part was set up, like the wax museum with the mask later on, and like it was very solid that way. Once again, it's based off of a short story, so I think those are more successful. I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I am in agreement. It's a 4, even maybe a 4.5 out of 5. Pretty solid. Really fun. I love a spooky
murder and ghosts.
I love a spooky setup. I love the grand reveals that Poirot does. Any opportunity for that. The whole innkeeper bit and the wax museum bit. Mm-hmm. Great stuff. Yeah.
May I say, those are two things that they did add from the short story, I believe.
Yes. Yeah,
and
those
they
were
were
not
very
in the short
welcome
story.
Additions. And if I recall correctly, Melissa, when we read the short story, it was a very similar rating.
Probably.
So
that sounds about right. I like a spooky parlor reveal.
Mm-hmm. Tyler.
I give it a 4.75 out of 5.
Yeah.
I really, really love this. For the reasons that we what?
I love that how excited Melissa and I get every time you like something.
Yeah.
It's very positive. We're like, oh, we did it.
Yeah.
I just try to live my life as if I were Mikey in a Life commercial.
He likes it.
Yeah, for the reasons that you both stated before, and I mean, the only reason it didn't get a full 5 from me is because the blackbird situation.
Mm.
When they first discover the eggs and they see that some of the eggs are broken and they look up and there's like a blackbird there, I was like, that would have definitely attacked them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
Like 100%. I've been around birds enough like that.
Birds
it would have gone down.
Birds are terrifying.
But that's it. That's my only real gripe with the episode is just that moment.
Oh,
all right.
Sounds good. Well, I want to thank you very much for listening, and I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to a close.
Gavel sound.
Ooh.